I may have people coming in. They're continuing to stage. So, howdy, everybody. We are recording. If you didn't know, or if we didn't know, I guess is really what it should be. But let's see. I'm gonna do a little here. I want to well, don't pop up there. I want to take this thing and I want to make sure there's nothing there. Good. Kill him.
So we got last two were hiring talent and scaling with contractors and employees. We did elevator pitch, overcoming barriers, business finance management, and the kickoff. So we're on 7 and 8 this week.
What did we had something.
I
Uh,
couldn't find it. Did you write it in your notes or on your board?
I probably did. Well, it's just good thing about like, all right, I'm gonna whine a little bit. It's like so we're staging the house, and the real estate agent came in and it's like, okay, well here's all the stuff you got to move and stuff like that. And she said, look at my office. Of course, she was like, I don't know what we're gonna do here, but I know you got to work. Which to me is like, okay, then you can't touch anything. Like, all right, so clean everything off, do all this stuff. And one thing she said, do you need the whiteboard? I'm like, yeah, I use a whiteboard all the time. And so she's like, okay. Well, Natalie heard I was going to take the whiteboard down. And then she just assumed I didn't do it. So at the last minute, I come in after they'd stage it, and I was like, that lady took my whiteboard down. We had a discussion and agreed that she wasn't. And I was like, oh no, I did. And I was like, so I was not prepared for it. And so whatever I had, I think I'd already erased everything off of there. So I don't have my board anymore. So got my whining out of the way. And I don't know where I have notes. I don't think I wrote that down. So I thought I put it in Slack. Let me see let me go look real quick. Did I
All
put
right.
it somewhere?
While you're looking for that, so I went to a lunch meeting this week, and there was a lady from Jackson State talking about AI and business. And
Mhm.
it made me think. So we already talked about scaling with contractors, employee, and hiring talent. One topic that I thought maybe we could discuss is not so much like hiring, but maybe task handoff or using AI or virtual assistants to streamline your process so you can focus on the things that you need to focus on and not basically do the busy work.
Yeah, this feels like it's not I don't know. It's probably not we can do AI. Everybody likes AI. So I guess we'll do an AI. We can do an AI discussion and sort of like some ways you can leverage AI. I mean, that was what Natalie and I were talking yesterday. Because we're doing branding and stuff. Because I gave her another title basically. I'm like, okay, I want you doing like media marketing and stuff. I want because that was part of what we talked about from the start is for her to do some of the branding and marketing and things. And so she said, well, I actually I had a discussion with Chat GPT about Google, basically about SEO. She's about like, rankings in Google and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. I was like, so what did it come up with? And it did come up with a couple of things that, I didn't know because Google changes their stuff periodically. But I was like, there's like, it's not bad to have some of those where you're like, okay, I'm going to throw some ideas out there and see what it comes back with. Because sometimes it's like everything else, it's another voice. So
Mhm.
it's not a bad way to go about stuff. It's like, yeah, I don't use it as much as I probably should, but particularly like meeting summaries and some of those kinds of things, it's actually pretty darn useful. And then you get into the whole um, like doing tasks that are repetitive. I mean, there's some things now. There's a lot of stuff you can throw at AI that can definitely speed your work up, especially the repetitive stuff. So yeah, I think we'll do AI and then. Oh, what's a good one? I wonder if there's something else we can do that's sort of like a follow up. Because we've talked about like handing off tasks, right? We've already done like, I'm trying to remember, you just listed them all out and I've already forgot them all.
Yeah, I accidentally. Oh, that's email, not my. Where did it go? There it
I
is.
think we've done something about like
So
using,
we did scaling with contractors and employees.
okay. So I think that's,
That was growing your business. So we didn't really get into this part of it. That's why I brought it up because one of the things that they were leveraging in this class was talking about, like, why don't you use it for some of your HR tasks, like building a company handbook or like a code of conduct or things like that, like where you would spend money or hire someone to do this and you don't really do it again for a while. Why not leverage AI to get you 90% there, and then hire someone if you need to, but use it for the beginning. And it looks like I am really cutting out. Is my audio okay?
Your audio is okay, but you're jumping around, you're max headrooming a little bit there. So
Hang on, let me turn off this light. That might help. Is that better?
do this. Okay, yeah, you're not like it's not jumping as much. That's odd that it would be a light thing. Oh, that reminds me. One more light on it. That's a light. Yeah, that's a light. I have all these lights. I might as well make use of them. Ugh. Okay. So AI and
Let's get through the AI.
AI and just general. Let's talk about because we haven't really. Let's go back to like and then general automation, like some of the thing automation and templates. Let's say because actually I think AI will sort of feed into that. Or actually, let's reverse those two. Let's go automation and templates first, and then we'll follow. Then the next one will be AI and sort of using AI to build that. And that's like you said, like your employee handbook and crap like that. Which is funny you mentioned that because that's something we're building right now. Is just like, I wonder what this is going to look like. And most of the employees, it's like, well, okay, grandfathered in, grandfathered in, grandfathered in. It didn't exist when you guys came here.
Is that for the other one or for your current one?
Oh, this is for RB Consulting. So we don't have an employee guide. We just like, I always give them like a few documents and stuff like that. And it's like, all right, we're going to build a handbook and stuff like that. We had a handbook, but it was virtual and it was like, it was me chasing stuff down like a rabid squirrel trying to figure out where all those documents went. Even though I had a folder that they should all be in, stuff would grow and move. And so that's a good thing. We'll talk about automation and templates because that will help, I think, immensely. And then we'll go into AI. And so we'll do a little 3 and 2 and go. What?
Well, I was just going to say real quick before we do it, that also could lead into another topic of filing and managing your paperwork.
Yeah, that may even be something we do here. That may be that one to talk about here, sort of like a file system or something like that, and managing all that crap. Because I think that is part of the automation because it's not necessarily just like computer program automation, but just yourself having a very automatic, like, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is where it goes. That kind of stuff. Okay, we'll go back to this. We'll do our little 3 and a 2. Well, hello and welcome back. We are Building Better Developers. We're Developreneur. We are back for another episode. This time we're going to talk about templates and automation and some things like that in your business and just ways for you to get your stuff done faster. However, we're going to wait, give you a little bit of so you can refresh your caffeine, or you can listen really closely to us because I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Rob Broadhead. I am one of the founders of Developreneur, also founder of RB Consulting, where we, through integration, simplification, automation, innovation, we use all of these tools, and then we use the most important tool, which is a conversation with you. We work with you to understand your business, and actually not just in a general sense, but like, what is your secret sauce? What is it that is your brand? What is it that you bring that it brings the most value? And then we help find ways to leverage technology to get your job done better while still being yourself. Not like one of these like chat bots that you automatically know is just a really bad AI and it's just somebody automating something. It's like, no, this is where you're like, we're going to make sure that we get the best of it. Your best foot forward with your customers and leverage that major investment that most companies have these days in technology. Now, good things and bad things. And it's again, I'm really in this like two sides of the same coin season of life, it feels like, because, and I've talked about it a little bit, but we're downsizing, we're moving somewhere else. And so we've had people come in and now they've staged a house. And now the good part of that is that we have all this like little furniture and stuff like they have. So the house looks better than it ever has. It's like, it's really good. I mean, it's like, it's nice, it's comfy, it's all this kind of stuff. It's not like necessarily the highest quality furniture or anything, but it looks really nice. The downside is the bad thing is that one of the things we did was my office. And so now when I go to work, I don't feel like I'm at work anymore. I've got like all the stuff that I've had for like is all my little like comfort things and all that kind of stuff that like endears my workspace to me is sort of like, cold and just surgical at this point. So I guess that's the other good thing is that just more reason for me to become a road warrior for a while and go check out like the local cafes and stuff like that. Now, so because he's got his caffeine and he's ready to go, I want to go pass this over to Michael so he can introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Meloche. I'm one of the co-founders of Developreneur, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we help businesses really analyze their software and understand if the software is working for them or they're working for their software. One example is if you find yourself doing more manual tasks than the software can help you with, we can help you walk through those processes, build systems or apply systems in place to help you streamline your business, improve your performance, and hopefully improve the bottom line. Good and bad. This week, a little bit of a good and bad. It started getting warm, started getting nice, started feeling better, and then we got cold again and all that fun stuff with the rain. And the other bad of that is because of all the rain, we're in that rainy season, our driveway started to get washed out. So the other good with that was the guy who came by when we first bought the house that surfaced our driveway happened to come around 3 days after we were just having a discussion of, hey, we probably need to do the driveway again this year, and got it done for, it wasn't too cheap, but it's cheaper than replacing the driveway. So good and bad.
So this one, as I said, we're going to talk about basically like automations and templates and things like that. And I don't want to we can go and we will talk about like using software and applications and stuff like that. But this is really more about routine and things like that, and making sure that you've got things in a situation that if you use them a lot, then you don't have to spend a lot of time on them. You can just like, boom, you're done and you keep on going. And that's why I talk like probably a lot of this is more about like templates and processes and procedures and things like that than actually like writing code or anything like that. And the first thing is think about the stuff that you do daily or maybe even weekly, like on a regular basis. For example, for my company, one of the things I do probably almost daily, but definitely do every week, is we will write proposals for a wide range of stuff. And then another thing we do is we send statuses out. We send statuses to customers. And we do, like everybody, you do invoicing periodically. That's something that you may do daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it is. That's usually something you're accounting kind of stuff you're probably going to do on a regular basis. So those are a couple and then I guess the other one is just sort of in a general sense is our marketing effort. So it's where we want to get our name out there. So there's all of these are it's very useful to have a template to them. So stepping back, like proposals. With a proposal, yes, every proposal is unique to some extent because it's going to be like a specific, almost always it's going to be a specific customer, so specific needs, specific request, essentially responding to a specific RFP. However, there's a lot of boilerplate kind of stuff that we're going to use in any one of those that are things like, and they're things that really don't change from project to project. So it's stuff like, who are we? What do we do? How do we approach it? What is maybe like some of our values, or maybe even as I've mentioned earlier, it's like maybe there's some like your secret sauce. Like, what do we bring to the table that's a differentiator from somebody else? Those are all excellent things to have as part of every single proposal that you put together. So we have a template that is basically like, here it is. And then I can go through and I can put in the specifics. And a lot of that is even templated to some extent because it's things like, I know I'm always going to have here's roughly, restating what the project is. And here's what the primary goals are. Then here's some of the, breaking that down to like maybe some of the key milestones or something like that. Those things occur everywhere. So it helps to have a template, not only just because you're just going to like reuse the same thing. It's not just copy and paste, but it is like to give yourself an outline. So when you sit down to do that process, it's easier for you to just sit down and just like bam, bam, bam. You go through the steps because you've always done it. You don't have to worry about it's early in the morning or late at night and I forgot this step or something like that. You just walk through it. Or, and you can also tweak these things. So your templates can make you better because what you can do is you can look at how well that template, that approach works, that process works. And then you can say, I wonder if I can improve it. You make some changes, you take a look at it and see if maybe that improves it. So that's like for proposals. For status, it's the same thing. And actually, status, and I would say almost any email that you send out, there's things like, you have a footer on an email. Go ahead and use that signature to the email and like use it to spread around your company. Some, a lot of places it'll be maybe their mission statement or their vision. It usually be like contact information. And then usually it's stuff like, some little tagline or maybe a link. A lot of people, like I do, will put a link to their Calendly or one of their scheduling things. So it's like, hey, if you want to schedule a call, here's an easier way to do it. I recommend that even if you're not just for yourself. These days, if you've got some sort of service or something like that, it's so much easier than somebody saying, hey, I'd like to talk to you. Let's schedule it back and forth 1,000 times. And you finally land on something. Just say, hey, here's a link, pick a time that works for you, and just make sure you got your stuff put together. Yet another automation piece that you can do. The other one I want to talk about is general marketing and branding kind of stuff. Especially if you're in any kind of business that, if you've got a side hustle, your regular business kind of stuff where you're interacting with customers, or more importantly, potential customers, prospects of some sort, then it's going to help to have some things that are sort of your intro to your company flyers and things like that. And it's going to vary on what you are, but it's probably going to be things about like who you are, what's your value, what do you bring to the table, maybe, current sales and deals and stuff like that. Maybe there's references. A lot of people will have like references from other customers that say, hey, Michael's a great guy. I love working with him, something like that. These are all really like just, I think we overlook them sometimes, is these are automations and templates and processes that allow us to have a consistent look and feel and approach of our company without having to do a whole lot. It's basically like do it, refine it, and then just like, here you go. And one more thing before I pass it on to Michael, and I'm going to steal it from him because he mentioned this, is because I mentioned that I sometimes suck at this, is organizing such things. Is when you've got all these templates and all of these things that you've built out, you need to have an organized way to look at it. Now, it can be helpful. You could be like me, and there's like, I have all of these odd little mental journeys so I can follow through my stuff. But if I have to go look for one specific thing and I'm not on that journey, it can take me a while to get there. Thus, that's why I have somebody that now is like, that's part of her biggest job, is organizing all of our crap, is basically taking these documents and doing it in a way that a normal person that at any point can be able to navigate through, versus it being, which worked for me. I will argue that it did work for me because it was like I was on this journey, so I knew at every step where I was going to be, so I knew where I needed to have my stuff, my materials for it. So you may want to do it that way. There's nothing wrong with that, because sometimes how you do it is the best way for you. So it's like, if you have a process and you're here and this is what it looks like, then organize it that way. But it doesn't hurt to maybe, especially these days with all the digital links and stuff you can do, is have it both ways. You can have it your way, just like McDonald's, or whatever, Burger King, whoever it was, that tagline, you can have it your way. But also you could actually like build a structure that makes sense, just like we talked about way back with development. If you just have like one folder and you just throw all your source of various types in there, it's easy to find it in a sense because it's in the one folder. But if you want to find a specific thing, it's really a pain because you have to look at maybe thousands of other folders. It's the same kind of thing. And I think for us as developers, maybe that makes more sense, is realize that your business is sort of its own set of code and directories and folders. And if you build that out properly and look at any big business, you'll see those kinds of structures. To steal those is go ahead and use that. And that will help you as well with your processes, your procedures, and being able to execute them better. That was a lot. And so I'm sure Michael is going to have quite a lot here. He's been waiting. He's been taking notes. He's been like, now it's his turn. Unless I cut him off.
Thanks, Rob. So you've already kind of touched on, using automation and templates for invoicing strategies, proposals, marketing. You touched on email. Let me take it a little bit further into the branding world of things, because, I'm currently our social media guy for Developreneur. I cut the videos, I post them on social media, things like that. And I'm actually going to kind of walk through how I use a form of automation and templates to streamline that process, which used to take hours, into a smaller time set of a couple hours. Sometimes this took a day. Now it takes maybe about 2 hours because we still have to write our content for our blogs. So initially, the first thing we do, if you're doing any type of social media or branding for your company, you're going to want to post on social media. There's lots of different things you can do, like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, whatever. But essentially, what you're going to want to do is you kind of want to get into a routine of doing that. So you have to automate or create a schedule for posting out your social media, because you don't want to just do it once and forget about it. I'm bad about that with Envision QA because I'm too busy working in the business than on the business. But when it comes to doing things the right way, or the way you should, to stay, up on the rankings within Google or with your customers, to keep them engaged, you want to try to get into a routine of, use your calendar, set up a calendar reminder that, hey, I need to post on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Initially, if you're not new to social media, do things where you stagger your postings. Do it like in the mornings one day, lunchtime one day, afternoon one day. Kind of get in a routine to see where the feedback comes in. This is kind of interesting because if you are in the world of WordPress or other types of website management tools, you can actually download little apps and things and reminders where you can schedule these things out to help you automate the process. Years ago, we used something. It's not Calendly. That's the scheduling tool that we use today for calls. But we used one for it was Buffer. So we used it to essentially go into a calendar. We would post the days we want our content to go out. We would put links to our blogs, and we would set it and forget it. It would post out for us. We would spend one day doing it instead of trying to remember, oh, I got to go every day and do that. There are still tools out there and sites that do that. But because the social media sites constantly keep changing things, they break a lot. So you still have a little bit of a manual process. Even with the podcasts that we push out, sometimes we run into issues where the tools we use to push our podcast out to all the different sites where podcasts go, sometimes that fails. And we need to catch that, and then we have to make sure that we still get our podcasts out in a timely manner. Now, for those of you, because this is a Developreneur podcast, if you are a developer, we like to write code. So one of the other things you can touch on is, instead of going out and looking for these things to help you automate, you can write your own tools to automate your own templates and social media posts and things of that nature. So, well, like Rob said, you can use the existing tools like Word, and that they have templates where you can kind of format the way you want it, and then you reuse them. You could also create your own turnkey solution with software where you could basically design what it is that you want that is custom for your company, and then you essentially push a button and it spits out what you want. The other thing with that is it's something that you could possibly even sell or license. So as you're building your business and you're working within your business and looking at these automation and template things, sometimes you run into things that are beneficial to others. And if you can get it to work for yourself, throw it out there. You might make some more money on this. I think, was it Gary Vaynerchuk or Tim Ferriss? One of them did something where, or maybe someone they interviewed, created a couple WordPress plugins that were very useful to them to help them with their business. And they just put them out there, and they sold like they sold like wildfire. So these are, I know I'm kind of getting off the topic of automation and template, but it comes from that. So if you are doing something that helps yourself, your business, and be more productive, these are also opportunities that you can use to essentially brand or even outsource some of your tools to others and make additional income within your business.
Yeah, and I think that's that does take us a little off topic, but I think that is a good thing to consider, is that there may be not only a benefit to you in doing with your processes, your procedures, your templates and things like that, but it may be benefit to other people. And there are businesses that have been built off of the business that they did, taking their tools and moving that out to use for somebody else. So there's always that secondary, effect, or maybe it's further down it, but also additional effect that you can have from doing your processes and your procedures as you do it. I will want to note that when you're doing automated stuff, particularly if you're going to code it, one of the things that if you can put some sort of wiggle room into your consistency, it does help a little bit these days, because there's things like, if you want to post, it's one thing if you want to do your post like at noon every day, like bam, 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 at noon. And that's what we do with the podcast and all of our releases. They go out at certain time, certain day, because we're going to be available then. But if you're doing general marketing stuff like, hey, here's an article. Hey, here's a reference to something we did last week. It helps to move that around a little bit, partially because then the social stuff will not kick you out and say, this is just a bot. And even other people will say, hey, maybe this is it feels more human because it's not bam, every day at the same time. I don't know how much that adds, but for some reason, all of us, even though we know that we can schedule stuff somewhat randomly, we still feel a little better knowing that, oh, it was a little early, it was a little late. So maybe it gives us the illusion that maybe there's a human behind this whole thing, and it's not just some bot conspiracy that's trying to get us to buy whatever the heck it is we're trying to, that's being sold. But you want that consistency, because you want people to be able to say hey, if I go in Monday, I'm going to see new content from this, or I'm going to see an update, or I'm going to get a newsletter, or whatever it is. But it also helps to, not get, sometimes it's better to be good, but not perfect. That's all I'm saying on those. Challenge of the week with this one is pick a process, really anything. And it could be as simple as sending mail. Actually, I had this discussion earlier today. It was maybe what I do this week is actually reading mail. Years ago, I built tons and tons of filters, but I've got a different mail client and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff has gone by the wayside. I still have some, but not many. So for an example here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at one of the things we do all the time is email. We see email, we have to process email. So I think what I'm going to start doing is go back to what I did before, maybe each day, I'll take a look at the emails that come in. And for those that I can do some sort of automated process, whether it's just throw it in the trash or more importantly, I think what I want to do is start taking stuff that is customers, and you want to make sure it goes to the right customer folder. And I think even to make sure that if I get one from a customer, that I will forward it into one of my, my bug tracking tool that I use and things like that, my to-do list. So it'll be instead of just my inbox with my email, which is, it used to be very good, but it grows. And then the next thing we know, it's okay, our inbox is too big. Now I do, I religiously, basically, I clean my inbox on a regular basis. So it actually stays pretty small. But it does have sometimes it'll distract me because I don't check email all the time. And if somebody says, hey, you need to check your mail, it'll take me a minute, because that's I'll pop up with all these things and I'll, run through and process my mail real quick while I'm there. Which is okay for me, because time-wise, that's a good batch. It's okay, I got to be here. I can just crank this stuff out, because it's not, it may be 10 or 20 messages, but you can usually go through those pretty quick and be don't need it, don't need it, don't need it, don't need it. Okay, leave it, leave it, leave it. And then I'm on to the thing I need to, but it can also distract me from whatever it is that I'm doing. Particularly if the person's right there, I'm more likely to get there and be oh, I'm going to look at that email. If they're not there, I may be 30 minutes later, I'm lost in some rabbit hole on some email that I wished I hadn't looked at right then. So that's your challenge, is pick a process, and how can you improve it? How can you automate it? Or how can you take stuff you do on a regular basis? For example, say a status, maybe there's a status report. If you haven't already, look at it and say, all right, well, what do I always include? Here's, I probably always have an intro and an outro or a summary or something like that I can take those and just be here's my bulletproof points of, here's the stuff I did, here's what I'm going to do, here's a summary, something like that, so that you at least have that outline and see how that works for you. I think if you do pick just something, ideally pick something every day, 5 minutes. What is it? Just look at your day. What do I spend a lot of time on? Or at the end of the day, what did I spend a lot of time on? And then is there a way that I can create a Word document or a notepad thing or a calendar reminder or whatever that will help me do that better in the future? Let's see how that goes for you. One thing I would actually challenge you to do, not an official challenge, just a side one, is to put on there sending regular emails to us, because why not? Because if you're going to automate it, let's go ahead and do it. Let us know, info@developreneur.com, any comments you have, any suggestions, recommendations, things like that. We are always looking for feedback. We're always looking for ways that we can become better, build a better podcast from these better developers, all of you people that are out there that are, especially the regular listeners, things like that. I mean, everybody's welcome, but if you spent some time, you probably have an opinion and we would love for you to share it with us so we can utilize that to be better. Because if you don't, then, what is it? Silence is death, or silence is acceptance, or whatever it is. There's all these the horrible memes about silence, but it's basically, but silence doesn't mean, it means that we're not going to be able to get better. We're asking you to be active participants, and we will be active listeners and make sure that we help you out and validate that and provide you with better content. And if you're the only one that ever sends us an email, then great. You will be able to have your own personal customized podcast, basically based on your feedback. You can also reach out to us, leave us comments wherever you get podcasts. You can check us out on the Developreneur channel out on YouTube. Go to developreneur.com and leave us, we have a contact form. You can leave comments on any of our blog articles or anything like that. Basically anywhere you see our name, there's probably a way to give us feedback, and we would love for you to do so. We'd love to hear from you. And right now, we would love for you to go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. Bonus material.
So one of the things we touched on, or at least I touched on a little bit, was the social media like buffer and things like that. There's a lot of tools out there for social media marketing and scheduling, which are very helpful. Rob touched on Calendly. So if you need to schedule meetings with your customers, instead of having that email back and forth of when there's availability, Calendly is really good because you could just integrate it with your website. They can go to your page and it syncs with your calendar. So if you have time blocked off, that time won't be available for them to schedule on your calendar. Be careful with it though. If you have the wrong tier, you might not be able to create enough buckets for that. I found that out briefly. But it is a very good way to help organize your calendar with your customers. And then I guess lastly, the other thing I would touch on, because you briefly touched on it, is if you're going to go through and you're going to start building templates out, be careful where you put them. Don't just build it, put it in a folder and forget about it, because then you're going to have to go through the process again. So if you're going to spend the time to do it right, and make sure you put it in a location that you can always find it. And also make sure you back it up, because you don't want to have it on a hard drive, on a computer that dies, or you accidentally sell and you lose it. Redundancy is probably the best thing you could do if you're going to start automating things. Make sure you have backups.
Wow, there's actually the backups is one that you threw that in there. That totally threw me off, because I was just this last week, I've got like another little add one of these little like mini external drives, and I was literally backing up Dropbox into this little portable drive, because I'm thinking like, hey, if I'm going to be out somewhere that I don't have connectivity, and this is sort of goes back to what I talked about earlier with my good thing bad thing, is that like I want to be more. I'm working on being much more able to be remote all the time. And one of the things that I have to do then is that means I want to be able to be in a situation with my laptop, I can actually be literally disconnected for hours maybe and get work done. And one of the things I need to do is there's a lot of stuff I have in Dropbox. This is not tell them to like send us money, because they're not an affiliate or anyway. So we're not making any money by mentioning this, but we'd love for them to send us money if you join up and do that. But I use that. And so I was pushing stuff off to that. And this is, again, part of sort of that automation, because one of the things that I've run into when I try to go completely disconnected as a developer is it's too easy to use CDNs and stuff like that, is use these things so that when you build your software, you don't actually have that stuff local. It just goes and hits it somewhere. And it's awesome when you're connected all the time, which basically, if you're like me, you are almost all the time. And then you go to build something, you're like, crap, I can't build it right now because it's trying to get this stupid CSS library that Yeah, I mean, it's not that stupid because I need it. It's critical to my application, but I really don't need it right now. I would love to be able to just ignore it, but it's like now I got to go like turn everything off and say, don't do it right now, or pull it all local, which is what we should probably do anyways. So I think just I want to double down on that a little bit is if you're going to go build a template, make sure that you also use that template on a regular basis, that you're like, get yourself into that habit and put it somewhere where it's like, okay, I'm going to go grab this and I'm going to use it. And even if you're like me, like the proposals, I have proposals. I'll sit down and like a Grammarly, I'll crank through it. That way I've got I've got it, correcting all my spelling and grammar and all that kind of crap. But also then I've got a whole history of these things, which is really useful because one, now I've got, dozens or hundreds of templates. I can go back to one and go like, oh yeah, this is pretty close. And I can take this and I can more quickly get the task done that I need to. But also it's like, I know where to go. So I have that whether you have it as a link on your desktop or maybe it's a tab that's always open on your browser or whatever. It depends on which you choose your own poison. But it is nice to have stuff in that way. Or if you're somebody that's just like you put crap on your desktop and your desktop is full of all of these like links and all that kind of, you do you. But whatever works for you so that you do make use of these things. Don't put your time into it and then throw it away and never look at it again because then you were busy but not productive. You did a great job. You created all this useful stuff. But if you don't use it, it's actually not useful. So you didn't create useful stuff. You created useless stuff. Congratulations. And I say you, but I'm pointing the fingers at me because I have done that on more than a few occasions where I put a lot of time into something and go, crap, not really going to use that. So that also actually, it's okay. Bonus. If you're building software, if you're building a solution for somebody and you're thinking, hey, this is a great thing. Think about stuff like that where you thought it was a great thing. You built it for yourself and then you never touched it again. So before you get all like, these customers need to use this, maybe the idea that you had was not a very good one. I speak from experience. I also speak from somebody who is ready to wrap this one up. We gotta move on. Thank you for your time. Feedback as always is welcome. We will be back almost immediately. In our case, basically immediately for the next episode. For you guys, you may have to wait a little while. Have yourself a great day, and we will be here talking to you, ready for our next conversation, live, not AI. Have a good one. Bye-bye.